I'll never forget that night. It was one of those evenings where everything seemed to go wrong at once. The rain was pounding on the windows, thunder rattled the walls, and I was sitting in my living room surrounded by a mess I hadn't intended anyone to see. My laptop was open, papers were scattered across the table, and empty coffee mugs were piled in the sink. I had just lost my job a week earlier, and the weight of bills, responsibilities, and an uncertain future sat heavy on my chest. My best friend Melissa had been calling me all day, but I hadn't answered. I didn't want anyone to see me like this, at my lowest, broken, unsure of who I was anymore. But life doesn't always wait for you to be ready. Because that was the exact moment she walked in. Melissa had a key to my apartment, something I'd given her years ago when we were still in college, back when we trusted each other with everything. I hadn't thought she'd ever use it without telling me, but as the door creaked open, I froze. "Sarah," her voice called out, cautious but full of concern. I scrambled to close my laptop, shoving papers into a pile, but it was too late. She stepped into the room, her umbrella dripping rainwater onto the floor, and her eyes widened at the sight of me surrounded by chaos, looking nothing like the strong friend she thought she knew. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like my worst moment had just been broadcast on a stage. "Melissa, you shouldn't be here," I muttered, my voice cracking. But instead of leaving, she set down her umbrella, walked over, and sat beside me. "Too bad," she said softly. "You don't get to push me away right now." At first, I was angry, embarrassed. I didn't want her pity. I didn't want anyone to see how far I'd fallen. But Melissa wasn't the kind of person you could easily shut out. She had this calm persistence, a way of sitting in silence that made you realize she wasn't going anywhere until you let her in. "Talk to me, Sarah," she finally said. And for the first time in weeks, I did. I told her about losing my job, about how I'd been hiding it from everyone because I didn't want to look like a failure. I told her how terrified I was that I wouldn't find something new, that I'd let down my family, that maybe I wasn't as capable as I thought I was. When I finished, my hands were trembling. I expected her to scold me for not reaching out sooner. Instead, she reached over and squeezed my hand. "You think I'd ever see you as a failure?" she asked. "Sarah, you've carried so many people through storms. Why won't you let anyone do the same for you?" Her words cracked something open inside me. I had been so focused on pretending I was fine that I hadn't realized how much strength there was in letting someone else see me broken. The weeks that followed were nothing short of life-changing. Melissa became my anchor. She helped me polish my resume, sat with me during job searches, and even dragged me out of the apartment when she saw I was sinking too deep into despair. She reminded me of who I was before fear took over, resilient, ambitious, full of dreams I'd buried under stress. There was one night in particular that stands out. We were sitting on my couch, surrounded by job applications and half-eaten pizza. I had just received my third rejection email in 2 days, and I wanted to give up. "Maybe I'm just not good enough," I whispered. Melissa slammed her soda can on the table, so hard I jumped. "Don't you dare," she said fiercely. "You are more than good enough. 1 company's loss doesn't define you. 10 companies' loss doesn't define you. You define you, Sarah. And I won't let you forget that." Her conviction lit something in me. It was the first time I realized maybe this failure wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. Months later, I landed a job better than the one I had lost. A position that valued my skills, that challenged me, that gave me purpose again. When I got the call offering me the job, the first person I wanted to tell wasn't my parents, or even my siblings. It was Melissa. I called her, my voice shaking with excitement, and she screamed so loud into the phone I had to hold it away from my ear. That night, she showed up at my apartment with champagne, balloons, and a smile that could light up the darkest room. "You see," she laughed, pulling me into a hug. "I told you this wasn't the end. It was just the storm before your breakthrough." Looking back now, I realized something important. She walked in at the worst time, yes. But sometimes the worst times are when you need someone the most. What happened next didn't just shock me, it saved me. Because Melissa reminded me that even in the darkest seasons, we're not meant to walk alone.